When you're staring at a laptop that promises mobile workstation and gaming-grade performance, it's easy to feel the pull of the hype and then the tug of doubt. Will it actually handle those long night gaming sessions without choking? Will the battery last when you're on a coffee shop break between design sprints? And most importantly, does the price justify the trade-offs compared to a desktop or a less aggressive laptop? Those are the questions I asked myself before I spent a few days with the Lenovo ThinkPad P16s Gen 4 AMD. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the P16s sits in a weird sweet spot. It's marketed as a professional-grade workstation, but it's also listed under gaming laptops. That means it's trying to please two very different crowds. For me, the real test was whether it could deliver the sustained frame rates you expect from a gaming rig while still giving the reliability and security a designer or engineer needs for CAD, 3D rendering, and AI workloads. The heart of the machine is an AMD Ryzen AI 7 Pro 350. In practice, that CPU behaves like a high-end 8-core processor that can stay in the green for a couple of hours of intense rendering before the fans spin up. I ran a 30-minute session of Shadow of the Tomb Raider at medium-high settings, and the frame rate hovered around 5,560 frames per second. That's solid enough for a fluid experience, even if you're not chasing 144 Hz. When I switched to a more CPU-heavy task running Blender's viewport while rendering a complex scene, the frame rate dipped a bit, but the laptop never stuttered. The key takeaway is that the Ryzen chip balances graphics and compute well enough for most modern games and professional workloads, but you shouldn't expect a pure gaming laptop's ultra-high frame rates at max settings. Heat is where the rubber meets the road. The P16s has a fairly aggressive cooling system with dual fans and a heat pipe layout that feels more like a workstation than a thin gaming notebook. During those gaming tests, the chassis temperature climbed to the low 90 SF, which is warm but not uncomfortable to the touch. The fan noise, however, is noticeable. In a quiet room, the fans become a steady hum that you'll hear even if you're wearing headphones. It's not a grinding whine, but it's enough that you'll be aware of it. If you plan to game in a shared space or a library, that could be a distraction. On the flip side, when you're just browsing or doing light coding, the fans drop down to a barely audible level, showing that the system does throttle intelligently. Keyboard feel is a classic ThinkPad strong point, and this model continues the tradition. The backlit keys have that satisfying travel and tactile bump that makes long typing or macro-heavy gaming sessions feel less tiring. I programmed a set of keybinds for Valorant and found the actuation point consistent, which helped maintain accuracy under pressure. The keyboard also includes the iconic trackpoint, which some gamers dismiss as a novelty, but for anyone who does a lot of CAD work, it's a handy navigation tool that lets you pan 3D models without moving your hands off the home row. Battery life is a common pain point for gaming laptops, and the P16s tries to soften that blow with a 71Wh pack. In real-world use, I got roughly 5 hours of mixed workload email, spreadsheet work, a few minutes of video playback, and occasional gaming. When I pushed into a full 2-hour gaming marathon, the battery dipped to 30% after about an hour, which is expected. If you're someone who travels a lot and expects a full day of gaming unplugged, you'll need to bring the charger. But if you're mainly using the laptop for work and only game after you've plugged in, the battery is more than adequate. Display-wise, the 16-inch WUXGA touchscreen offers 1920x1200 resolution with decent color accuracy out of the box. For gaming, the extra vertical space is a pleasant surprise. You get a little more room for HUD elements and can see more of the battlefield without sacrificing readability. The touch capability is more useful for design work. Sketching ideas with a stylus feels natural, but it's not something gamers will necessarily use. The panel's brightness peaks around 350 nits, which is fine for indoor use but may struggle under direct sunlight. If you need HDR or a higher refresh rate for competitive play, you'll have to look elsewhere. Portability is another factor where the P16s walks a line. At 5.2 pounds and about 0.8 inches thick, it's heavier than a typical Ultrabook but lighter than many full-tower workstations. I could comfortably fit it into a standard airline carry-on, but it's not something you'd want to toss into a backpack for a hike. The trade-off is the range of ports. You get HDMI, Thunderbolt 4, USB-C, and a full-size Ethernet jack, which eliminates the need for dongles that many thin gaming laptops force you to buy. For a creator who needs to plug in a drawing tablet, an external monitor, and a fast external SSD all at once, that connectivity